The Bolts have won 3 in a row. How did they get to this point? We talk about all that and more, but first, let's play that music.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Decker. I want to thank all of you for making us your first listen of the day. Tonight, we're talking about the Lightning on a 3-game winning streak. How'd they get to this point? Can we expect them to keep improving as the season comes to a close? And really, I want to start things off by really just patting myself on the back, honestly, because it's really, let's, you know what? I'm going to scratch that, because at the end of the day, what I said that was going to be the keys to the Lightning winning games and winning consistently and beating good teams was really the fact that Andrei Vasilevskiy really needed to step up. Now, of course, I'm talking about the Lightning coming off 3 big wins, actually. First off, shutting out the Carolina Hurricanes and then beating the Capitals 5-1 to end the month of March. And then starting off the month of April on a very great note, very high note, actually, shutting out the New York Islanders. And really what it all comes down to is Andrei Vasilevskiy. He's really starting to look like his vintage self. And we've been saying that here on this show for pretty much all season, how important it was for him. Now, we kind of came to terms with the fact back in, I don't know what, like February, maybe even earlier than that, January, because even when the Lightning were playing well, going 10-3 over the month of January, we still knew that they had to scratch and claw for every win throughout that entire month. And Vasilevskiy wasn't exactly as dominant as we have seen him over his last 5 games. His last 5, he's 3-2, 2 shutouts. That's the important thing right there that we got to point out. And his save percentage is at 9.961. So by all indications, he is really getting back to what we expect him to be in terms of playing level. And you see it from this team, not only just because they're winning games, but because they're going out and they seemed a lot more energized, probably as energized as we've seen them all year, discounting the month of January. And I say that not in a bad way, but just because I feel like if you look at the year as a whole, October, November, December onward, every month except January, the Lightning have been pretty much average. They've been up and down. They've been peaks really, really high and valleys really, really low. So these last 3 games, I have to say, and at the same time, we have to take it with a grain of salt, because really the last couple of weeks of February and pretty much the month of March were really nothing to be proud about. These last 3 games and even the previous game in which the Lightning lost to Boston, we have to say that really this team has come a long way. This team has looked very, very good. And Andrei Vasilevskiy has looked very, very good in his last couple of games, his last 5, like I said. And even maybe going back to that Boston game, I mean, he lost that game, but his save percentage was 9.41, only gave up 2 goals, played spectacular in that game against one of the better teams. And I really think his play really started to take a better turn when we saw him pick up that win against New Jersey, those back-to-back wins. And if you go further back to that, that's 8 games, 5-3, only gave up 14 goals, a save percentage of 9.44. So really, if Andrei Vasilevskiy continues to keep improving over these last couple of games, really we have to look back at the first game, the March 14th game in New Jersey, as to when we start to see him really get back on the right track, and really, like I stressed, and I think we could all agree, it couldn't come at a better time in the season, because the Lightning, like I've said and have stressed over the last couple of months, that as this team, with every loss, they always say we need to get better, we need to improve, but at the same time, the clock is running out, so the urgency should be the roof, and we haven't seen it quite that much. But this team, I think, in recent games, has taken a complete 180, has made a complete 180 in their performance, and a large part of that has to do with their goaltender. Now, the big question I think that we will all have going forward with Andrei Vasilevskiy is, how big of a leash is John Cooper going to give him as the games whittle down? Is he going to play, for example? Now, chances are the answer is going to be no. But is he going to throw Vasilevskiy out there on Long Island on Thursday? Because in case you don't know the schedule, the Lightning will be playing the Rangers at the Garden this Wednesday. And then the following night, we'll be on Long Island against the New York Islanders. So depending on the performance, let's say for hypothetical purposes, if Andrei Vasilevskiy goes out there, has a very solid, dominant night, now it doesn't have to necessarily be a shutout, but at the same time, if he gets something to that level, if we see somewhat of the same performance against the Rangers that we saw in the previous game at home against the New York Islanders, does John Cooper throw him out there against New York again? And when I say the New York, I mean the Islanders, for a back-to-back game, and then you sit him against Ottawa, and then do you throw him out there against Toronto? If I was John Cooper, quite honestly, regardless of performance, you sit him against the Islanders, you have him play against Ottawa, because then after that, he has 2 games left, and then you play Toronto and then Detroit. Now, some other individuals, which is perfectly fine. I mean, I think the only other, I don't think there's any wrong way to do this in terms for him playing bad. Now, if he does have a bad game on Wednesday, I think that you do sit him. I think you throw him back out there against the Islanders. Now, that's late in the season. I think you would have to almost be forced into doing that, because you want to get your guy back on the right track as soon as possible, especially what happened against the Ottawa Senators in their previous game, where they just got absolutely run out of the building. I would even say maybe you play him twice in a row regardless against the Rangers and the Islanders, and then you sit him going to Ottawa. And then now here's the question: do you sit him against Toronto? I would say probably yes. Don't let the Maple Leafs get that one last look against him. So having said that, you play him 3 games in a row against the Rangers, the Islanders, and the Senators. You sit him for Toronto. Now, some people might disagree with that move as well, because some people might say, let him get one last look at the Maple Leafs before the season ends, before they have to play each other the following week. I would say, you know what, keep the Maple Leafs guessing a little bit out there, and then play him against the Red Wings to end the season. I think that would be, in my opinion, I think that I would feel more comfortable with that. At the same time, I don't mind if you flip-flop it. If you have him play against Toronto and then you sit him against against the last game of the season at home, I don't think Cooper is going to do that, because I think, obviously it's the last regular season home game of the season. You don't want to not play your best players. You want to put out a good effort against a very scrappy Red Wings team. So, a lot of question marks, but I think that, if Vasilevskiy continues to play at this level down the stretch, I mean, as much as you want to give him rest or some sort of reprieve before before the real fight begins, you're almost going to be forced to play him out there, whether he's playing well or he's playing bad. I mean, it really all depends on what happens against the New York Rangers. So we'll keep an eye on that. In my opinion, like I said, I think that you throw him out there. I think really at the end of the day, you almost I don't see a scenario unless God forbid he shows some sort of injury or maybe wear, or I mean, because we don't know. I mean, all signs indicate that he's rested and ready to go and looking like he's starting to really focus in here. But I almost don't see a reason as to why you don't play him, except maybe give him one last one last rest day here and there, probably against Ottawa if I had to bet money, or probably against the Islanders. So we'll keep an eye on that as that develops. Really hope he continues to keep playing at the level that he has been playing, because when he plays like this, the tables completely flip. The Lightning go from a team that just a couple of weeks ago we were worried whether or not they could get past the first round. Now we're talking about, if Vasilevskiy continues to play like this, now the question is asked, how far will they go in the playoffs? So we'll keep an eye on that as well. But first, yeah, let's see how he plays. So we'll keep an eye on that. And coming up, we're going to talk about another player that's starting to get it together, and that's Steven Stamkos. We'll talk about him in just a bit. But first, I want to talk about today's sponsors, and that is eBay Motors. Now, for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that the part will fit, or your money back. Because just like sports, confidence is the name of the game. When you shop on eBay Motors, and with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. And after all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. So once again, as always, if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Give us a follow on our social media pages, and give us, if you rather prefer to listen to the show in audio form, we are available wherever podcasts are distributed in that form as well. So we go from Andrei Vasilevskiy, his recent play in net, and we shift out more onto the ice, the full 200. And we look at the captain, Steven Stamkos. Stamkos, as we know, and I'll admit, I have been a little bit, I guess, what's the right word? Maybe too hard on him. At the same time, he is just not that player that I think that we've expected him to be in years past, since, down this current stretch or coming into these last couple of games. But Stamkos has really turned it around. I think he's really done a very good job, especially over his last 5, really getting himself involved, especially scoring goals over his last 5 games. He's got 3 goals and 8 points. Now, the points is great, obviously. Having your top guy, or really, I wouldn't count Stamkos as the top guy. It's really Point and Kucherov right now that are leading this team. But really, when we look at Stamkos, I mean, let's face it. I mean, he's 33. You're starting to see, I guess, a little bit more of wear and tear. And it's not so much that I think he's getting old or really wear and tear. I think, as much as I do believe there's a little bit of it that it does factor in, I don't think it tells the whole story. He still is putting up the stats, 33 goals this season, 80 points overall through 76 games. The plus minus obviously is not where you want it to be. -1 doesn't really do much for you, I hate to say, on the defensive side of things. He's really that guy where he does have his moments where he can facilitate the puck to his teammates. But really, the thing that is alarming is that, well, actually, good as of late. I'll say the negative as to why he's been struggling, and then we'll focus on the positive. So the negative has really been that we know for all these years, he's really been, in terms of scoring, for the most part, a one-trick pony in terms of his versatility around the ice. As we all know, his spot on the ice is that left circle, and teams as of late have not been able to have not allowing him to get those prime looks, and goaltenders have been doing a very good job of making those saves, as well as with him not being able to put the puck on the net when he does have the chances. And so, that does hurt him. He definitely does have one of the best shots other than Alexander Ovechkin from that spot on the ice. But like I said, at the end of the day, if and really what I alluded to is that when you're struggling, when it's working, it's great. But when you're struggling, it's hard to really get yourself out of it. You're just gonna have to take a ton of shots from there, especially with a guy like Stamkos, who really that's his game. That's really his game. And really happy to see with his recent play and scoring that he's getting his goals. All three of his goals, if I'm not mistaken, have been from down low in front of the goaltender. And that is going to be a big deal for the Lightning if he can continue to capitalize on those chances, because like I said, you're not going to get those kind of chances. Like I've said before, you're not going to get those chances in the playoffs, and especially against the good teams. So it's really important for him down this stretch to obviously take those chances from the left circle and continue to keep doing that and taking those shots, making the other team think about you, because they will allow you to open up the ice for yourself, but also allow you to open up the ice for your teammates, as we have seen on some occasions throughout this season. Um, the thing is, though, with that is that if Stamkos is not going to be that go-to guy, which can be frustrating at times when we see the Lightning just cycle the puck endlessly around the ice just to get Stamkos that perfect look, it does kind of slow things down for this offense, where it does take away looks for other players like Point, like Hedman, who I have been shouting and screaming all season that really he needs to shoot more from the point. Um, if that's going to be the name of the game, where Stamkos isn't going to be able to capitalize on those opportunities going forward, and especially in the playoffs, that is why the Lightning should really fall back, or really actually consider putting him lower in the lines in the rotation. I think, listen, this is just me because I've been pitching this idea for a couple of episodes now, but you got to move Stamkos down. You got to move him down from the first line. Uh, and especially against a team like Toronto. I know we're constantly talking about the hypotheticals here on the show with what could possibly be done to beat Toronto. As much as I think that the way Vasilevskiy has been playing as of late, I think it's going to take more than him. I mean, we saw that last year in the first round that it's going to take an entire village to beat these Maple Leafs. I don't care who's hurt on their team, who's not producing. When the playoffs get started and the Lightning are up in Toronto, it's a whole different ball game. All bets are off. So the Lightning are going to need to spread out things, and which is why I think it's imperative. I'm not saying Stamkos is a lost cause. I'm not saying he's going to be unproductive. That's the reason why, and that's the reason why he should be moved down. No, I think it's the opposite. I think if he continues to find these chances, which he has shown, and he is also, a very smart veteran now, where he could find those chances and be able not to panic down low in front of the goaltender and chip one back. And I think that would be perfect. I think you could actually almost allow yourself to move him down to that third spot, where you have Hagel up on the first line alongside Point and Cooch, Cirelli on the second line with Paul and Colton, um, or maybe even put Killorn up to the second line and move Colton down, because if you're not going to have if you're not going to have Stamkos being set up with those chances every other possession in the circle, you could have him down low fighting in front. You could also have those chances to give to Ross Colton, because as we all know, if Ross Colton gets hot, the other team's in trouble. And when Ross Colton gets hot on the offensive side of the ice, he's one of the best scorers on this team. And so, that's very important. And I think that, that also causes issues with Maroon if he stays on that line, which, quite frankly, I don't agree with. I think Tanner Jeannot should be up on the third line. I think come playoff time, we will see him on the third line. But yeah, I think Stamkos, even if he gets moved down to the second line, I think that will benefit him, and that'll benefit guys like Nick Paul and Ross Colton. I really think that, though, it all depends, and I think John Cooper should take this into consideration. I think it really all depends on where we're seeing Stamkos get his goals of the season, his final goals of the season, in these last couple of games. Because, if you see him rocketing ones off against the Rangers and the Islanders and the Senators and the Leafs and the Red Wings from the left circle, that's a good look. You keep him up on the first line. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But if he's getting his moments and his goals, and he's getting a lot of opportunities and good quality shots and rebounds down low, then I see no reason and no problem as to why he can't succeed in the lower lines. As much as you could feel whatever type of way you want about your franchise player and your captain being on the lower lines after he's been on the top line all year, that's fine. You could feel weird about it, even because it is a weird thing. But at the same time, come playoff time, it's going to take creativity. It's going to take juggling around to a certain extent to win these games. So why not kind of start it in these last handful of games of the regular season with a guy who I still think has a lot of goals left in him, especially for the playoffs. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on him as the regular season comes to an end. We'll keep an eye on Andrei Vasilevskiy as well. And we'll keep an eye on basically this whole team, because, Stamkos being moved down doesn't only solely fall on how his performance and where he's getting his opportunities from. It also depends on how the guys around him are performing when he's on the ice with them. So a lot of factors in play now, a lot of variables to deal with for John Cooper. But definitely this is probably one of the most fun parts of the season, as we get to see early on, as before the playoffs even start, what kind of team the Tampa Bay Lightning can be when the playoffs do finally start. So we'll keep an eye on that. But really, I want to keep an eye on our other sponsors today, and that is our friends at Athletic Greens. Now, the weather is being all crazy around the United States, especially up by me in New York. One day it's hot, one day it's cold. It could really mess with your immune system. So that's why every morning when I wake up, I have one scoop of Athletic Greens, because not only does it have a ton of vitamins in it, but it's super easy to use. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. So right now it's time to reclaim your health. Join me while I'm reclaiming mine. Reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. So to make it easy right now, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/NHL network, take ownership over your health, and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. So wrapping things up on the show, a lot to look forward to in these last couple of games. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, you know what? Let's just focus on everybody just getting healthy, everybody just staying healthy, and everybody just working on their game. Let's not go crazy in these last couple of games. I think that, as well as we have seen the Lightning over their last 4, I think that they could win outright. And I might be a little overzealous with that prediction, but I firmly believe it. I firmly believe when your top players are finding ways to score and be productive in ways that we normally don't see them. Case in point, Steven Stamkos scoring down low, doing the dirty work in front of the net. When you have your goaltender, your franchise goaltender, Andrei Vasilevskiy, going out there pitching shutouts, all bets are off. And then you sprinkle a little bit of the magic that we have seen from Braden Point, from Brandon Hagel, from Nikita Kucherov. When you have all that together, this is one of the best teams in hockey. And I think that this is going to be the sleeper pick if this team continues to play like this down the stretch, win or lose. I think that this is a team where we could finally say to ourselves for the first time all season that not only have they found their niche, but that they have been playing a brand of hockey that can be recreated on a nightly basis. And when the Lightning do that, they win cups. We've seen it back-to-back years. They played the same brand of hockey in back-to-back seasons, and that's why they won back-to-back cups. Not saying that the Lightning are going to win a cup this year, but if they play like this, there's no reason as to why we can't think they won't get close or even be in contention. I think all bets are off once they start playing like this, especially early on in games, early on in the series against Toronto in the playoffs. So we'll keep an eye on that. And in the meantime, if you haven't already done so, keep an eye on this show by subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Subscribe to us on any audio platform as well. Subscribe to the show or actually follow us on our social media pages. LO_Lightning on Twitter, Locked_Lightning on Instagram, and give me a follow on Twitter, DankyDank, DENKYD8NK. Send me your questions for a mailbag, whether it be about the playoffs, Vasilevskiy, whatever player on this team. Who do I think is going to be the unsung hero, the secret hero? You know, we always have a playoff hero. I think this upcoming playoffs, it might be someone that you may not expect. So maybe hit me up with that question. I'll answer it. Ask me who I think is one of the other teams we have to be wary for coming out of the East. We'll talk about all of that in the following episodes. But in the meantime, that's been it for this episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Danker. I'll talk to you in the next one.